get tea underway. It's been a morning. Let me get my live chat on. Alright. You might hear some outside noises because I've got my window open. It's that time of year where if you open your windows early enough in the morning and you let all the cold air in and then shut them, it won't be as hot inside your house as it will be during the day because that heat is coming. Um, okay, I'm going to make the sweet dew tea again. This one is from Me Leaf. I like the little boxes they come in. I think they're cute anyhow. Where is... Okay. Morning, everybody. I'm going to actually use my teaspoon for this. It is a spoon for tea, not technically a teaspoon of measurements. Tea. Pot. Other words I know. Been up since like 5:30, but it's one of those days where you might have been up early, but you're still behind on everything. The weather is nice here. It's suddenly super hot. Although last night it was all like dramatically gorgeous and cloudy, and I thought maybe it'll rain. It didn't, though. It passed by. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been the night, and I wouldn't have known. So this one says 185. So I'm gonna get my teapot started. All right. Yeah, so I been up pretty early. Had a crazy fucking PTSD dream that I haven't had a PTSD related like night terror type dream in a while, and I had one last night. So I've been up and I was like, "Oh, all right." I actually kind of wonder if it's because like I ate a new yogurt last night, like a new strain that I like ganked from from the store. Because if you like take a yogurt from the store and it's not flavored and it doesn't have any nasty gums or anything in it, you can use that to culture your own milk. And I found this little container of sheep milk yogurt, and it had like L. Bulgarius in it, and I was like, yes, I shall turn you into goat yogurt. And it worked really well. I did have to give it a little bit of a strain to thicken it up because that's just the nature of goat yogurt. But I kind of wonder if sometimes when you introduce new bacteria into your gut, it can make changes like dreams and things like that, you know. um, so in my mind I'm like, all right, well, maybe the difference in my gut microbiome made me have that random dream, you know. Yeah, it was bellwether. And I just like that it's already set and it had like two other bacterias in it that would help it, you know. um I can buy the strains, but like I don't know, like I like something that's already like active. That way that I don't have to, I don't know, pasteurize everything. Like you're supposed to use with a lot of those heirloom strains, you're supposed to only use pasteurized milk. Not because raw milk is dangerous, but because the bacteria might not be able to overtake the naturally occurring beneficial bacteria that's in your raw milk. But I got around that by using the milk that I had just milked, right? So a lot of that bacteria that's in raw milk, it takes time to develop. So if you're using like literally like fresh out of the tip milk, I find that the heirloom cultures can still thrive. And in fact, I was making some traditional Clabber farm cheese, right? And that's where you take raw milk. You can't do it with pasteurized. Um, that's where you take raw milk. My teapot brand, for those asking, is the Cochinair. It always looks like it says cocaine to me. I'll have it linked, or my mod can drop the link to my Amazon list and you'll find it there. But anyhow, so you take your raw milk and you sit it on the counter in jars until you see it separate into curds and whey, right? And then you just strain it. And now you can strain that for 24 hours to let the whey separate from the curds, like hang it in like a bag or, you know, like a tea towel or cheesecloth that's not real cheesecloth, not the stuff from the store that sucks. And then you have like a cheese that you can salt, right? And you can age it in different ways. You can turn it, they call it like dream cheese. You can age it in oil, all kinds of stuff. But you're relying on the naturally occurring bacteria in the raw milk to basically turn it into curds and whey, so you don't have to use rennet. But when I put the other day, it was like 4 or 5 days before mine turned to curds and whey because the milk was A, so fresh, and B, so clean because we use a Danshaw milker. So like the milk goes like their titties fit inside these little like it's like the big like animal syringe type thing minus the top, and obviously there's no needle and they fit right in there, and so it goes from a sterilized thing through sterilized food grade tubing down into a sterilized jar. So I don't particularly care for open air milking. There's nothing wrong with it, but I find my milk lasts longer. The taste is cleaner. Like if goat milk tastes off to you, it's because it's either too old or it could be cleaner. Right. It's not that it's bad for you, but anyhow. So it took like 5 days, and I'm finally straining it. So I'm able to use those heirloom varieties for like yogurt cultures, um, because the milk is like so clean and fresh when I use it. Now, if it sat in my fridge for 3 or 4 days, it'd still be fine to drink, but the yogurt bacteria would probably have a hard time overtaking the naturally occurring bacteria, right? Um, but anyhows, I don't know why I see that. How does off goat milk taste? Well, if it's raw, it never really goes bad. It just goes different, right? But like, it tastes goaty. Like sometimes it can be the breed of the goat that tastes goaty, but oftentimes it's because the milk is too old, the milk isn't clean enough, or somebody is keeping their buck like too close to their females, right? And they get those hormones all over them, and then the milk, it can get into the flavor of the milk. Or if they're eating, like, depending on what their diet is. Like, if you live in, like, the desert, like, we live in high mountain desert, so we have, like, lots of green stuff here still. But if we were, like, an hour east, west, hour west towards, or whatever, if we were an hour into, like, the sagebrush, like, land, and they were eating that, their milk would taste like shit. So, but it usually tastes kind of like sourish, but not like sour milk. It's just kind of pungent. But my goat milk just tastes like milk. It's actually got like a sweetness to it. And part of that is because of what I decide to feed them, right? Like obviously they have plenty of like forage to graze on around here that's fresh. But also they get organic cob, which is corn, oats, and barley. And then they get black sunflower seed. And all that leads to like higher like fat and sugar levels in the milk. Ooh, that's super tasty. That's that one that's almost like kind of tangy. She almost tastes like a sweet cucumber right off the bat. I know that sounds weird, but imagine like if a cucumber was just like slightly sweeter. That's what this green sweet dew tastes like, which is probably why they call it sweet dew, right? And like it's almost like a lemony cucumber flavor, like hits your tongue right off the bat. Anyhow, but yeah, so I guess we're talking about milk today. It's on my mind because I'm like deep in milk season where it's like now or never to make a lot of stuff, right? But so I started making the El Ruderai yogurt yesterday that I talked about, and I did too good of a job. Um, Most people it takes them 36 hours from what I've been reading, and they're using a yogurt maker and they use the BioGaia tablets, but I used it's like a brand called Super Smart, and I had them in my fridge, and what's funny is they're expired by like a year and a half. And I was like, fuck it, let's try it, because I'm waiting on some living culture to show up anyhow. And just a sidetrack, I'm thinking about collecting strains from everywhere because there are different strains of El Ruderai, and I'd like them all to be present. Anyhow, I do the same thing with milk kefir, water kefir. But I put the tablets in there. I emptied the capsules. I fed it some potato starch. I put it in my like bacterial culture incubator because I decided not to buy a yogurt maker because I already have this like lab grade bacterial incubator for when I used to do R&D on my creams to see if the preservative percentage was high enough or if bacteria grew, right? That's how you can tell with stuff like that if you want to make it safe. And it's supposed to go for 36 hours, and this morning when I got up, it had barely been like 14 hours, and I was like, all right. Um, and yeah, and they still worked that well. Yeah, and so I went in there and I was like, oh, I can see that it looks a little thick. It's like I can see the thin layer of whey around the jar, and so I just kind of I take it out of there and I look at it. I vaguely move it, which must have tossed a little bit. I sit it back in. I go about my morning. I go outside. I take Wallulah out to go to the bathroom, and I check on the plants in my greenhouse. I'm maybe away from this incubator for 25 minutes tops, not even 30 minutes. And I look in there, and my jar that has ventilation, by the way, I used tinfoil that had holes in it, and then I use these spore lids that are meant for like mushroom cultivation, so it can let air out, but nothing can get in, right? So it had plenty of room to off gas, and I come in, and this thing is like a geyser. It has found the holes for off gassing, and it is like coming out of every direction because apparently that little bit of movement that I did woke the culture up. And so, but all the directions I was following, everybody was using those BioGaia tablets that you have to like crush up, and it's got like nasty magnesium stearate and other fillers in it. And I was like, well, I already have these. I already have these tablets, and they're cleaner, and they're a capsule that I can open and dump in versus crush up, right? And damned if it didn't take off. But I'm thinking if I would have taken it out this morning before tossing it and putting it back in, that it would have been perfect to eat. I think that I really woke the ferment up, right? But I also kind of wonder, because everybody that's making this, they're using like a yogurt maker, and there's nothing wrong with yogurt makers at all, but I'm using like a super precise piece of equipment for culturing bacteria. So I wonder, I'm going to do it again. I was talking about it with somebody on YouTube today, and I think that I am going to. They talked about we talked about it, and she went and saw some of the reviews on Amazon, and it's stronger. So I'm going to try like 1 or 2 capsules and see how fast it goes. But I kind of wonder if, because like the incubator that I use, it's like a convection oven where like it like perfectly heats everything inside of there with air versus water. Right, and I kind of wonder if like I will repeatedly have like batches done in 15 hours versus 36, right? But I think that I think that it's something interesting. Somebody asked me, what are my thoughts on chronic wasting disease and deer population and eating venison? Oh, I eat venison all the time. I think it's a really important way to get your body used to what's around in your bioregion, right? It's one of the reasons that I'm not really afraid of ticks. When you look at the populations of people now, there are outliers, obviously, but people who have grown up from like infanthood to like adulthood and continue to eat venison, you don't hear of them as often getting like things like limes and things like that from ticks. And it's because when you eat the meat, the animal has already produced antibodies, right? And then you take those antibodies in, and your body's like, oh, it's the same way that like when you drink your mother's breast milk. Shit, that'd be weird. When you drink your brother's, goddamn my brain, your mother's breast milk, it gives you her immune system. It tells you all these things that she's been sick from, and your body creates antibodies. The same thing if you're drinking raw milk from your region or things like that, right? Same thing if you're eating raw meat. But chronic wasting disease is definitely an issue, and you can, in theory, get it from the animals, right? They do have testing stations if you have it really bad in your area. But one thing that's really interesting is like with chronic wasting disease, it can't jump to goats. I was looking at that. Like I was looking at like what can it jump to, because it can jump to cattle. Your cattle can get it. It can jump to any other like moose, elk, reindeer, any of that type of stuff. There's even reports of it maybe being present in horses, but it can't jump to goats. And so, you know, I'll hunt for as long as we're able to. Um, but once it gets to, you know, to the situation that you can't eat it anymore, I know that it can't get to, you know, thought of the day, don't drink milk from your brother. Fuck. Man, I love when my brain does shit like that. I swear to God, my dyslexia made me mix up the word B from breast milk and M from mother, you know, brother's milk type of situation. Somebody said I tried to slurp my tea this morning like you do. I sucked it down my windpipe and choked the shit out of myself. Yeah, it's not an aggressive slurp. I am just slurping it to like the front of my tongue. The front of my tongue. Um, there's a I've done the same thing. There is a lady that fucking hates how much I slurp, but it's funny because, and if she's watching me, it's like she doesn't see my comment, so she hears me. It's like she's like, you would have millions of followers if you didn't slurp your tea. Stop slurping your tea. I can't listen to any of your videos because you slurp your tea. And my mind says, if you can't listen to any of my videos because I slurp my tea, why is your ass all up in my comment section on every video telling me to stop slurp my teas? Because you're obviously watching it, and I feel like it's more about the need to complain than having frustration over somebody slurping tea. No, but really, well, like when it comes to like drinking, especially like green and white and sometimes black teas, slurping aerates it the same way with wine. And so, like, if I just drink this, I don't get all of the same flavor profile that I would, right? Because it pulls it across different areas of your taste bud. And if I want to slurp my tea, I'm gonna fucking slurp my tea, you know? And it's funny because it's like when I'm making a video, like my little reels, it's maybe like 2 seconds of sound for an entire minute. You know, I take one drink of tea, but I thought it was funny this morning, and I was like, you know, humans sometimes are much. But yeah, yesterday I got a little bit of dirt hauled for that last garden bed. And then I feel like I needed to put more hydraulic oil in the tractor based on how it was acting, but you can't do that when the tractor is like actively warm, right? So I only got about 4 loads hauled, and then I need to do like 7 more. So today, after I wrap up, you know, tea time and everything like that, I'll be out there pouring oil in a tractor and then hauling poop dirt again. um, but and I gotta get those garden beds like in. I still have to be like I'm not letting myself jump and put tomatoes out until it's like the end of May because again weather here can change because I'm in zone 5A. Um, but I will be putting other things out. I've got a bunch of perennial kale that I want to get started that I can put out into the ground. I've got a bunch of herbs coming that will handle the weather just fine. But yeah, I am. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that, getting that done. I'm excited about the prospect of getting it done. I know once I get these beds built, and I'm not actually building anything. I'm just layering like compost and stuff on the ground so they look like raised beds because they're raised off of the ground that I'm building them on. But they're like a hybrid between like lasagna gardening method and like the back to Eden method, right? And so they look raised because I can't do either one on its own. I need like the help of the wood chips to keep moisture in, but where we're at, it gets so hot in the summertime and so cold in the wintertime that the wood chips do not break down into soil quickly. Even if they're fresh, they just do not. It just doesn't work here. And so I'm really just hopeful that once I get these in place, all I have to do is keep them healthy. The beds themselves, you know, I planted a ton of mushroom mycelium in them, and I'll do the same thing. And I'm just hopeful that And I'm never going to, with these beds, I'm not going to pull anything out. Like when things are done growing, I'm just going to cut them at the root and leave it there, because then the root breaks down, right? The root becomes food for the microorganisms, and it should encourage a bunch of like worms and things to come in, you know. Um, so I'm hopeful, but it's just taking time and effort and life in between it, right? So, and sometimes I get down on myself because I used to do like really big gardens, and I'm like, this is a pretty small project. It's still taking me forever, you know. It's still taking me forever. Um, but somebody said take a big drink of hot coffee or tea and you'll wish you slurped. Yeah. Um, So that's really my plan today, and then to restart that yogurt. I am half thinking about saving up to buying like a miniature pasteurization machine for milk, not to pasteurize the milk that I drink or anything like that, but to make the L. reuteri yogurt. It's not really yogurt; it's a bacterial culture. You have to have pasteurized milk, and I've been using my instant pot, but I would like a machine that's more specific for it. And I found this cute little one that does 1 gallon, a 1 gallon batch, which is about what I would need, right? And I can, because there's some stuff where I just won't have a choice but to use pasteurized milk, but I feel stupid going to the store to buy pasteurized milk when I have like so much milk from my goats that I have to like really work to use it all, you know? Um, but yeah, somebody said off subject, but can we get a hair care? I mean, my hair care is probably not anything that you would use for your hair care, because I have like 26-year-old dreadlocks that drag on the ground. I use hot water, like just hot water every 2 to 3 months. Sometimes I oil it with like rosemary infused, like almond oil or coconut oil, but just on my scalp. But my hair has self regulated for decades now. Um, Do I have a freeze dryer? I did for a time. I bought one. I got one on a decent deal, and then I was like, this is stupid. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that it's not cool to play around with and that, things aren't whatever, but like the amount of like money it takes, not just the cost of it, but like the small amount that you can do, even in the large one, and the time it takes and the electricity it takes. It's crazy, man. And it's a really big misconception because yes, it's freezing it, but it also like gets it really hot. Like it's hot, it's getting it hot and then freezing, hot and then freezing, hot and then freezing, and they're just using the heat to push out the liquid, right? To make it off gas water, and then they're freezing it again. And so it's just really it's for me, I mean, it's okay. I get it. People make money off of them. People like to store like their food with them, but like I question that it has. I mean, I get that it has a longer shelf life. I believe that aspect of it, but like I question that it has more nutrients, right? Because of how like how hot it's getting to begin with, you know. Um, but the cool thing is because I bought it on a discount and I barely used it. I was like, this thing is just taking up room in my kitchen, right? I was able to sell it for a profit. So I was like, all right, well, I just kind of like lent my money into that for a minute, and now I made some extra money because it came with like, all the like doodads and all the extra like the quiet pump and all that kind of stuff, But so no, I don't. I mean, if you're really into it, but you'll notice that people end up having like 4 or 5 of them. Right. And you have to have that many to like so I don't know. For me I'm all about like blanching and freezing, fermenting, root cellar, smoking, drying, all the stuff that like everyone's ancestors already did for like thousands of years, but anyhow, so question, is using a dehumidifier machine the same as curing method? Yeah, so for years just gonna put this out there. For years, I worked in the medical marijuana industry, even though I don't smoke weed. Haven't for a long time, anyhow. And one of the things you need to learn how to do when you're growing weed is to cure it, not dry it. And that always included like a dark, cool room with a dehumidifier running. That way you're not relying on evaporation or heat, but you're actually pulling the moisture from it, right? Same concept for every plant. You need a dehumidifier to cure something. That's a big part of it, right? You need some way that you're pulling the moisture out without relying on heat or air movement to dry it, right? And it makes a huge difference. I would like to see the difference in nutrient and medicinal properties that are in cured herbs versus freeze dried herbs. I bet the cured herbs would have more compounds present still because there's no heat involved. Right, it's just time and darkness, and now it doesn't have to be pitch dark. I have a couple videos of it on YouTube. I use like you can use like those like cheap Walmart cloth closets, you know, that you're supposed to put up and use. And then you just find a way to hang the herbs in there. Sometimes I put netting down. Sometimes I use zip ties if it's mold, and I'll just zip tie the stalk and it'll all hang down. And then you have a dehumidifier in the bottom of it. Just keep on top. Just keep on top of keeping the water changed, like taken out of the dehumidifier, because people forget about it, and then the machine gets full, and then it's just sitting there not pulling moisture out of your plants, you know. Um, but somebody said we freeze dried our hops. It was a mess, but they came out looking beautiful. Yeah, you know, and okay if you have them and if you want to use it. For me, I was just like, this wasn't for me. It wasn't practical to like do the amount of food that I wanted to do, or the time it took, and the sound it make, and the cost that was involved, and like the hyper amount of electricity that it takes. You know, that was crazy. You know. Are you planning to make a milk kefir video soon? Yeah, I'll probably throw that one in there. I've got to let myself do more and more like cooking type videos, even though I know that it's not necessarily herb related. Because those are things that I'm just randomly doing, and it's a lot like when I first started like talking about the things I knew about herbs. In my mind at the time, I was like, "Wait, you don't know this too?" And it wasn't that just in my mind, it's just like it was reality, right? And so things that seemed super simple and common to me were like blowing people's minds. And I think that the same thing is occurring. I'm realizing that like the same thing is happening with like things I do with food. And so it would be beneficial to help and to share that type of stuff, you know. Just sharing that would probably be helpful, you know. So I probably should do all the videos on the fermented things, and I don't know. I just never. What I need to do is allow myself to make a video of whatever the fuck I want, and whatever I'm up to, you know. Like I don't know that I ever thought to myself that I had to stick to like a theme for my YouTube channel, but I mean, I guess I did. I can do like a lot of different things. Like I don't know. I've had a lot of interests over the years, and I would like learn how to do something really well, and then I'm like meh, and then I move on to different things because I'm like a multi-potential type brain, right? Like I just enjoy learning and doing things, and I just kind of like move on, you know. And so I probably just need to start doing all those videos and like putting it in like little sections, but sometimes it might just be one video in the playlist of one video. You know. um, but uh but yeah, you know, and I'm slowly starting to get time back to do those things because the apothecary was all consuming, right? Like there was no time to even like feed myself, let alone make videos and do all the things that I know how to do. And like I don't know, it just became like this big monster, and it was like beautiful, and I'm grateful for it, and it changed my life, but it also like fucked me up. And at some point, um, I need to do like a big video on like the realities of running an herbal business, because I see so much bullshit about it out there, because people mask about all of their realities, even like the super hard, realistic struggles of running a small business, and particularly an herbal business, and like what that entails and things like that. At some point, I just need to fucking go off on a tangent. Because I don't feel like it would be meant to scare people away, but I feel like what happens is Nobody's really honest about it, and then when people get into it, they don't know what they're getting into, and real quick the romanticized notion goes away and people are like, and they run from it, right? But if we know this stuff, if we know this stuff before we get into it, we can be mentally prepared for it. And there are a lot of things that I wish I would have known in the beginning that would have saved me a lot, you know. um, yeah, running a small business is fucking hard, and running an herbal small business is harder in even bigger ways, and just I don't know. Um but anyhow, so yeah, today is going to be in my mind a busy day, but I'll probably get about 3 things done that will somehow take up all of my day. So, if you would like to support my capacity to be a real human, to keep a roof over my head, tea in my pot, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month as, a thank you. You do get early access to videos, although I should stop saying that because I almost never get a video uploaded early. But if I do, you get access to it. I've started kind of showing some behind the scenes stuff for members, but if it's something that's about learning, right, that's not just something in my day that I find interesting, I always make that available to everybody. If you can't become a member, don't even worry about it because I release all of my videos on weekends no matter what for everybody to see. You could also call things home from my apothecary, and you could use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off of anything you'd like to call home. There's definitely something for everybody: books, synergism capsules, all kinds of stuff. I'm working on getting help making my creams in big batches, and I'm super excited about that. And we're this close. We're this close. And so that'll be there soon. If you can't do any of that, or even if you can, make sure that you like, comment, turn on notifications, subscribe, and share. Sharing is super helpful because it helps other people realize that they can learn herbalism freely, that they can be a real human, that they're smart enough to do this. Helps get my work out there, and it has a huge impact on my life. So thank you so much for watching, folks, and I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Bye.